Our Save Nubia project is focused on preserving the classical African civilizations of ancient Kush and Nubia, which must be considered World Heritage Sites under threat. These great civilizations along the Nile River in northeast Africa are in jeopardy of having their central areas permanently flooded by a series of dam projects in Sudan. The Sudanese government is collaborating with China, Saudi Arabia, and several other countries to continue building a series of dams in northern and eastern Sudan to create hydroelectric energy, but these projects threaten to turn the flowing Nile into a string of stagnant lakes. However, various Sudanese groups in this region, such as the Nubians, Monastir, and Amri, oppose these projects because the dams will continue to destroy their homelands and way of life and forcibly remove them from the fertile Nile Valley to arid desert lands without adequate compensation for families and farmers. The affected communities have not seen any improvement in their quality of life, and they are further marginalized by these projects. The ecological impact of the dams is equally severe, as agricultural land has already significantly deteriorated. Following the completion of the 1970 Aswan High Dam and the 2008 Merowe Dam, the Nubian people are further convinced that these dams are part of an ongoing plot to displace them to various locations in Egypt and Sudan and erase all evidence of their cultural identity and historical contributions to the world. In northern Sudan, the Dal and the Kashbar dams at the second and third cataracts in the heartland of Nubia and the Sharik Dam at the fifth cataract are planned for construction soon without notification or consultation with the affected communities. The Nubians distrust the Sudanese government because they are always given broken promises that don't materialize, such as the electricity poles put in the ground 6 years ago that still don't produce any electricity. The World Commission on Dams examined over 1,000 of the 45,000 large dams around the world and clearly indicated in its November 2000 report no dam should be built without the demonstrable acceptance of the affected people and that they be consulted at each stage of the construction process. Of course, none of this has taken place in Sudan, and in fact, the government has never followed internationally accepted standards and produced a feasibility study outlining the viability and the impact of any of its planned or completed dam projects. In northern Sudan, the Merowe Dam created a 108-mile-long reservoir, which not only resulted in displacing 50 to 70,000 people, but also flooded a minimum of 2,500 unexcavated ancient Kushite archaeological sites, which are now completely underwater. The other proposed dams from the second through the fifth cataracts in Sudan, if completed, will each have a devastating impact on the large archaeological region, which represents a central corridor of the ancient Kushite and Nubian civilizations. Despite such well-documented sites as El Kuru, Nuri, Gebel Barkel, Dongola, Bagrawiyah, and Meroe, there is still much more in this vast archaeological region that is unknown. Nevertheless, Sudan's implementation unit is completing the Upper Atbar and Satik Dam Complex in eastern Sudan, which is scheduled to open in 2016. This new project has displaced tens of thousands of marginalized people, including uncompensated farmers from the Kassala region. The Beja are among these displaced groups, and they speak a language which is a dialect derived from ancient Kush. Let's be clear that electricity is an uncontested factor for a country to develop, but the means to acquire this electricity is often contested and controversial. There are several renewable forms of energy available in Sudan, such as solar power, microhydro, and wind turbine. But these alternative sources of energy are not being considered because they're not as lucrative for those involved. The dams profit government officials, and investor countries benefit by being granted agricultural land and exclusive petroleum and mineral exploration rights, while the local communities are displaced and lose their sovereignty rights. Our Save Kush and Nubia campaign has several goals. 1. Continue raising funds to conduct ongoing research to document the historical significance of this region. 2. Continue with our campaign until this rich archaeological region is designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site under threat. And 3. Assist the Nubians in the 2nd and 3rd cataract areas to build museums to help highlight and preserve their heritage and historical contributions to the world. Join our campaign. Assist us in helping to preserve ancient African history and culture. Our voice is the call of the Sudanese people who have asked us to help them amplify the volume of their struggle for cultural survival. The Nubians have again taken to the streets in 2016 to protest the pending dams and have pledged to die and be buried under the dams before they allow the remainder of their ancestral homeland to be flooded. We cannot allow the descendants of ancient Africans to be displaced and the historical evidence of their classical civilizations be destroyed on our watch. I trust that you will use your time, talent, and resources to contribute to our international campaign to save the ancient Nile Valley civilizations of Kush and Nubia. Support our cause.